happy Saturday. Happy return to Amelie Arena. And the Leafs pull out a fourth unexpected win against Tampa in a row. Welcome to Game Over Toronto. I am Lauren Williamson. On the other lovely, handsome side of the screen is handsome Harnish Patel. Welcome on, buddy. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I'm excited to be finally covering a Leafs win. I was on the last game with Fuad and thoroughly disappointed with that loss. Today, I mean, we started off, I was fully expecting another loss, but thank God we clutched it up in the third.
Yeah, man. That last 10 minutes, it's funny. I'm like watching the game and there's 10 minutes to go. I'm sitting on my couch making friendship bracelets with my wife like a genius and watching the game and taking my notes. And I'm like, I'm not even panicking. She's like, she actually made me one that says calm down. Because I was doing the thing where I was sitting there just holding my face. But I wasn't that. If they played the whole game like they did in the first period, they lose like 10-1. But it changed in the second period. And with 10 minutes to go, I looked at my wife and I said, you know, the crazy thing, I've seen them comebacks from bigger gaps than this in less time than this. So let's see what happens. And lo and behold, Matthew Knies comes through, the rookie, saving the team. Unexpected win on a Saturday night, man. Unexpected win. I was fully prepared. Like after that first period, I was like, oh, this is going to be such a bad game. This is one of those games that like, if I was watching it and I didn't have to stream, it would have been one that like I turned off after the first period to be like, I just need to take a break. But I couldn't because notes
and then you come back
taken.
You come back a little while later and you're like, what just happened?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
You mentioned Matthew Knies. We'll get into that more, but
we will.
Surprisingly, Max Domi creating those chances, eh? A little tidbit. We'll definitely talk about that because oh my god, thank you. He's finally arrived. Fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic.
He must be so relieved, eh? Like, even though there hasn't, I'm not going to say there's been a lot of, like, heat on him regarding that this season so far, but there's been, like, a little bit, and I'm sure the pressure that he's putting on himself and that his dad is putting on him is probably more than enough. So I imagine that was a monkey off the back moment for him. If you are just joining, this is Game Over Toronto. My name is Lauren. We have Harnish on tonight, and we are celebrating another Leafs win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. An unexpected win, although it doesn't matter if it's unexpected because it still matters in the W column. So let's talk about the game, shall we?
Yep.
So my notes, it's funny because I normally do like a half page for each period. The first period I have half a page. The second period I have 4 bullet points. That's it. 4.
Okay.
Right out of the gate.
And what about the third and OT?
Yeah. Oh,
is that 2 pages long each?
No. The third is like lots of like Kniesy and big font, big, bold, happy. Lots of underlining excitedly letters. But let's get to that after we get to the first period. So right away, Poppy gets a shot like 15 seconds in. They both trade shots. And then William Nylander actually, for the first time this season, puts the Leafs up to start the game. I can't believe it's game 5, and that's something we have to celebrate, is the fact that they didn't get scored on first.
They finally came and showed up. Yeah. And Willie, that connection from JT as well, just absolute beauty. It was so good to see them finally strike first because it's a hockey game. The team that scores first, they're at a huge advantage, right? And the Leafs, like the first 2 games the 2 games that we did win, the only reason we won was because of a hat trick at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
When you score first, you put the pressure on the Lightning. And the Lightning, you gotta remember, this isn't the same Lightning team that we played in the playoffs, right?
No.
Like they're missing a lot of guys. We talk about the salary cap affecting like the Leafs big time. The Lightning, I mean, they've been absolutely victimized by the salary cap. Like the most recent casualties, I mean, who's Alex Killorn, Ian Cole, Corey, Perry as well leaving, and now Vasi, he was injured too, right?
Yeah.
We got to remember we did Jonas Johansson in net for them today. Clearly not a problem. This guy played fucking fantastic today. Holy crap. But yeah, like this is a team that's been stripped apart, and the Leafs finally for once took it to them.
Yeah.
And I was so happy to see that. And it was funny. Sorry, just one quick thing.
No, please.
I think before the game, like there was a couple comments about like what this game meant for Tampa coming back, or the Leafs coming back. Obviously, we saw like the 4-1 or the series clinching game that the Leafs played against Tampa. They
Yep.
played really well. Well, I mean, really well, not really.
They played well enough to win the series.
They stole the series from them. Yeah, exactly. And I can't remember who was asked about it, but one of the Tampa players were asked about how they felt playing Toronto again, and he said the sting of that series still lingers with them, and they want to make a statement against the Leafs, right? Um, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is like yesterday or a couple games ago against the Panthers, we saw they had the whole ceremony with the Leafs in their arena, right? And they were chanting, "We want Florida and whatnot," right?
Yep.
Tampa was out for vengeance this game, especially Kucherov.
Yeah.
Man, they were on it. They were on it in that first period.
Yeah, they even though the Leafs do take the early lead, it how many seconds later was it? So the Leafs scored first 4:16 in, and then Knies took a penalty, and
2 minutes later, I think.
Yeah, not even. And then so Knies take a penalty on Sergachev, which shouldn't have been a penalty. The note that I have is little awareness of his size and and strength, because that's the second penalty like in a couple of games for Knies where there shouldn't have been a penalty called on him. It's literally just that's how big he is, and he's
a big boy.
He's a big dude, and I think that he's probably growing into his body to some degree, still being like not realizing how big he is, like. Listen, I've been on this planet for 34 years, and I still, like, smash into walls all the time because I'm not paying attention. And I can only imagine, like, when you've spent so much time working out and, like, getting your body so prepped and, like, so large, you don't really have a good, solid understanding of just how strong your body might be. And, like, I don't think it happened in the game against Florida, was it? Like where Knies got called for that other penalty?
Yeah, it was against Florida. And I think there was also one who was it? It was one of our defensemen, another big guy. One of the Panthers players just turned into him, and because obviously it's massive, like they just completely fall down and it looks a lot worse than it's supposed to be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I will say on that play, I mean, there was a couple penalties that the Leafs took that were kind of bad.
So that's what I was gonna get to. So that was the first penalty, and the Tampa takes no time to capitalize. Right, 15 seconds, like off the draw, basically, bing bang boom. It's
what a shot by Kucherov.
What a shot, and he gets basically the same goal like 5 minutes later. From the exact same spot, and it was just
another power play goal too.
Yeah, no, and that's just it, right? Like. Even though we score first, we take a penalty like within 2 minutes of that, which is something we have a bad habit of doing so far this season. We get a goal and we take a penalty within, 120 seconds of getting that goal. And of course, Tampa is Tampa, and they have Nikita Kucherov, who's Nikita Kucherov, and they tie the game. And then another penalty is called. No, Chernak is called for interference.
There was another Lightning goal in between it. That was another Kucherov play. Yeah. But talking about the next penalty, I guess we'll talk about the penalties first, and then we'll go back on that one. That was another the third goal by the Lightning was a McCabe hooking, like right, another penalty that the Leafs went on.
Yes, no,
and another one-timer. Oh, the trip. Sorry. And again, another one-timer by Kucherov, just in his bread and butter spot, right?
Yeah.
Sammy, like. In the second goal, he just wasn't able to track it quick enough. I think it was just too quick. It was like 4 seconds in the start of that penalty. The first goal, he should have at least been able to track it, been able to see where it was kind of going. They were hard shots. Like, don't get me wrong, Kucherov has a nasty shot, right? It's not an easy thing for anyone to get, right?
I wouldn't want to stand in front of it.
Exactly. But you played against this guy in a hard-fought series, I mean, just last summer, right? Or this summer, I guess, or spring. And you know what Kucherov does. Like, this is his bread and butter. That he's a penalty like specialist, and then he absolutely has a massive shot, and you got to be aware of that kind of stuff, right? And especially after that first goal, like you got to be aware of the second one. The second one is in the exact same spot, right?
Yeah. Well, so, and even the Berboulet goal, like Kucherov was standing in the same spot, except that instead of Baraboulet passing it back, he just banks one in, right? Just one times it right into top shelf. And very quickly, the Tampa's up 2-1. And then, another 5 minutes after that, Tampa's now up 3-1, right? And it was just, there were a couple of good chances to end the period for the Leafs, right? Like, the Leafs end the first period on the power play with Mikey Azimont playing with a broken stick. That was the penalty called with 1 minute and 56 seconds to go in the first. But the Leafs do end the period down 3-1, and it was bad. Like, right from the puck drop, like, there were a couple of players that looked really good. Obviously, William Nylander playing like it's a contract year, which, big surprise. Other than that, like, there were a couple, it seemed like more of the same of what's been happening for at least the beginning of this season, where it's missed passes, it's passes to nowhere, it's being half a stride off, it's being, the person that I have been playing with, and we'll talk about Keith bringing the blender out already so much later, like, they're still not cohesive. And even just the other night in the post-game interview, Keith's answer, okay, what does it take for these guys to get chemistry? Time. Okay, great. Then maybe leave them together a teensy bit more, because as soon as the Leafs went down, the blender came out. Now, part of that was because Joseph Woll was put in net basically 12 minutes into the first period. He should have just started the game. In hindsight, he should have started. Right? Can we agree on that now?
No, I agree. I mean, I've loved Wall from last season as well. I've been a huge fan of his. I think he's a really, really smart goalie. I think he's just positionally, it seems like he doesn't scramble as much, I would say.
Yeah.
Like Sammy, you see him having to make some acrobatic saves or having to really use his reflexes. I think Wall is just really good at just being in the right position to begin with, and then when he needs to make those flashy saves or whatnot, it's a slight movement here or there, right?
Because he's already in the right position.
Exactly. I've been a huge fan of his. And tonight, I mean, he got put in with Sammy blocking 1 in 4 shots. I think he let in 3 goals on 4 shots.
3 goals on 4 shots.
Yeah, it was a tough time for Wall to get in there.
Tough start for Sammy.
Yeah, tough start for Sammy, but Wall coming into it, right? All the pressures on the Leafs, all the momentum is with the Lightning, and for him to step in there, not expecting to even play or start, fantastic tonight.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the goalie, the now seemingly budding goalie controversy in Toronto in the second half of the show, but. Let's get to the second period with the 5 notes, because it seemed like when the Leafs came back in the second period, there was a little bit more oomph to their stride. There was a little bit better placement of their passes. There was a little bit better sticks in the lanes. They seemed to be getting in Tampa's way a little bit more when it came to blocking passes, intercepting, etc. But they were still having a really hard time having any sustained zone pressure. Like, there were a couple times where they were getting into the zone, but then they dump it and Tampa gets it back right away. And that was super frustrating to watch. Yeah,
and one thing that you got to credit Tampa for, I mean, they are just really good, like you said, just getting sticks in the lane, just getting bodies in the right positions, right? Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that really just frustrates the Leafs, right? And we talked about the penalty as well, right? In the first period, right? The 2 that caused the goals.
Yeah.
Like, the Leafs were on a 5-on-3 in this period as well. When you're taking these penalties, like, the momentum just shifts towards the Lightning's favor, right? You get flashbacks of Kucherov pulling 2 rabbits out of a hat, right? And the penalties that they took, again, I don't want to keep chirping on the penalties, but stupid penalties.
I think it's warranted here.
Yeah, exactly. Like the check on the head by who was it? Klingberg. Yeah. That was a stupid play. Like, I understand Hagel was kind of coming into it, and Klingberg is just a bigger guy, kind of nudges him and whatnot. Like, I'm more okay with it, but I just think that you need to be smarter with your body or whatnot. But the one that really pissed me off was the Nylander tripping penalty.
They're already on the PK.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, the penalty that he took was in the Lightning zone. It wasn't a scoring chance for the Bolts, like in our zone, right?
Yeah.
They were in the Lightning zone right off of a face-off. There was really nothing going on with that play, and it was just a stupid
reach
mistake. Exactly. Like there was no reason to take that penalty, and you put the team on a 5-on-3.
Yeah. And it
Not good.
no. And like you said to start your little speech there, which was totally warranted. It's Klingberg stepping up on Brandon Hagel, who went to the room for concussion protocol, and
Mhm.
thankfully he did come back to the bench, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I like hockey as much as the next person, but I want to see the best players on the ice, and I don't like it when even the other team's players get hurt. No one wants to see anybody get hurt. As
Mhm.
long as you have half a soul, that's what you believe anyway. And I think if Klingberg is 3 inches shorter, that's not a penalty because his shoulder's lower. Like, I do
Yeah.
think to some degree there wasn't anything that he could do if he was going to try and stop the play. Like,
Mhm.
was there maybe a bit more of a lean than I would have liked? Sure. But, if that's the only penalty that the Leafs take in the second period, I'm probably not mad about it. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, you're still taking a penalty when on the 2 penalties that they've already taken, they've scored goals both times. So, maybe don't. Like, find a different way to squeeze them against the wall instead of using your shoulder to turn it into a sledgehammer against Brandon Hagel's head, please. And then like the Willie trip with 26 seconds to go in the PK was just like reckless. And it's moments like that where I'm like, see, this is why William Nylander, even though he's so good and he's been so good so far this season, he shouldn't be on the PK. Like, he's just more likely to take stupid risks like that in a bad scenario. Like, I don't think he usually plays on the PK to start with because he's okay defensively, but like when he's on and he wants to do a really clean stick lift, William Nylander is one of the best at stick lifts in the game. Like, he's unbelievable at it, but he's also someone that gets a little bit overconfident and maybe overreaches a little bit more and has taken some bad penalties in the past. And like, what are you doing, man? Like, you've already lost body position. Okay, so then take the person that's trailing and let the defense take, the person that's streaking down the ice. Like, that's their job. You reaching around with your stick and tripping him is putting us in an even worse position. And thank heavens they kill the 5-on-3 and then the following penalty as well. That was great. And that seemed like the real momentum changer in the second period because the first period they get caved in on the PK by Kucherov. Thanks very much, Nikita. And then the second period they have a 5-on-3 and they kill it. And maybe playing in front of Woll gives them a little bit more confidence because there were a couple saves that Joseph Woll made this game that you have to imagine that the guys, after feeling like, maybe Sammy couldn't stop a beach ball in the first 15, you get a little bit more swagger and you feel a little bit more confident and you feel a little bit safer on the back end. You can turn your back to the net and not be as afraid that a juicy rebound's going to come up.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's more so just settling in and just playing how you know he can play, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, piggybacking off of the Nylander thing, we can't nail him too much. I mean, we'll get to OT, but and the way he's been
Yes.
playing so far in the season, fantastic. But yeah,
Yes.
it's just blips of
Bad habits.
just lack of concentration, I guess, or just make it like it's just blips right
Yeah.
here and there, and it's pretty much like we're known, or this is a pretty known like thing that happens with Willie, right? It's happened on numerous occasions and all the other seasons as well. It's just a thing that I guess he has to kind of work on and minimize as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's all that we can hope for, right? Like, and I'm sure
Mhm.
that, listen, it's still only game 5, right? I'm sure that by the end of the season, all kinds of unexpected things are going to happen and all kinds of players are going to take unexpected strides. Like, I am
Yeah,
very confident that by the end of the season, William Nylander is re-signed because he's playing like he wants a contract.
please,
And
please.
yes, please, for Christmas, my birthday, my anniversary, whatever you want to do. I'm also accepting Easter presents, Brad. That would be great because the more he plays the way that he can, the more I don't want to lose William Nylander. Like,
Mhm.
because he really is so good. He's so good. And if he was to just let up a little bit on taking stupid penalties, maybe he's able to, there's more argument for him to be worth $10 million, right? But it really felt like as the Leafs killed off that 5-on-3, they got more momentum. And even though they didn't score in the second period, it really felt like they were starting to get a lot more sustained zone time, better chances, better looks. And one of the first notes that I have in the third period is that Jonas Johansson, as the game went on, had to play more and more like Vasilevsky. Because by the
Yes.
end of by the third period, the Leafs had something like close to 40 shots on goal. They still only had got one in the net, but there was a lot more sustained pressure, a lot better looks, and they just seemed to be playing better as the game went on. And lo and behold, with 7:49 to go in the game, Matthew Knies finally banks a second goal in for Toronto from a beautiful saucer pass from Max Domi. I believe it's his first point as a Leaf. Is that right?
For
Max.
Domi? I think so. Yeah.
I think it might be.
He's.
And
I'll check it up. But...
And it's obviously, yeah, if you could do that while I'm chatting. And then, Knies gets his first official NHL goal of the regular season because, there's an argument that playoff goals don't count, which is absurd because those are the goals that, in all argument's sake, probably matter the most. He gets his first regular season goal, and he looked so stoked. And then 2 minutes and 22 seconds later, he banks another one to tie it from Max Domi again. And as he goes around the boards behind the Lightning's net, Max Domi literally just tackle hugs Matthew Knies, and they're both just screaming in each other's faces. And it was so good. You have to keep those guys together now, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it was, first of all, it was so good to see because the way Domi played, especially that last game against the Panthers, he was just mentally checked out. I mean, the three what was it, ice-ins in a row, 3 or 4 ice-ins in a row, and then the bad line change where he was slow to get off the ice, which caused an offside as well that ruined a chance for Nylander in the last Panthers game. This, there was a lot of pressure on him, a lot of criticism, justifiably so. And like you said, I mean, his dad's a legend over here. It must be hurting him, and he must have put all that pressure on him, and to finally be able to put that past him and clutch up, get a great pass to Knies was insane. And the way that he did it was moving his feet. That's what we've been telling him to do the entire time. Just keep moving, skate hard. And both times, he in the first goal of Matthew Knies, it was he hustled along the boards, I believe, and then drive the puck straight to Knies, or connected with him, and Knies was able to bury it. And in that second goal of Knies, it was a Lightning that he picked the puck off. I think it was Hagel.
Yeah.
And was able to connect with Knies over there as well. It's just Domi playing like we know how he can play, right? He's an offensive guy. He's really good with passing. He's really good with drive and play. And that's exactly what we saw out of him today. And the relief, the passion, the excitement out of him. I mean, I think this is the start of him finally being dialed in and just getting it. I think he's just locked in from this moment. And Knies and Domi, they didn't start the game together, right? Domi was on that fourth line, I believe, with Pontus, and Knies was on that second line with JT, right? And just mixing the lines around and whatnot, because obviously you wanted to put Marner, Matthews, and Willie to try to get some offense going, right? It just ended up working out. And it worked out beautifully. And like you said, there's no way you can separate these guys now. They love each other. They connected twice, and they saved the game for the Leafs. It wasn't off of a Matthews hat trick. It wasn't off of the top 4 guys. It was off of our depth.
Yeah.
Domi and Knies truly saved the game for the Leafs today. And I am all for it.
I think he has to be as relieved as we are, right? Also, mini shout out to Liberal in the chat. Max had 1 assist before tonight. Thank you very much, chat. Appreciate that. I imagine that now that he has a couple under his belt, he has a little bit of confidence. Some of that he has seemingly instant chemistry with Matthew Knies. I mean, listen, there are worse people that we could pair Matthew Knies with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There are worse people that he could.
This is a guy who killed it with Dallas in the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah. And I imagine, listen, when the Leafs signed Max Domi, lots of people from other teams came in, including our own Andrew Berkshire. Hello, Andrew. Was talking about, Leafs fans are getting a little bit too excited about Max Domi. He's not his dad. And it's he didn't think that he's his dad. And, we are all very aware. I think if you are a Leafs fan, you have probably watched more Max Domi highlights than you're willing to admit, even though he was playing for other teams. Because we all kind of kept a small, like, fourth eye far away on this player because we all kind of hoped maybe one day he would come and play in the blue and white. And thankfully he has. And I imagine that there was a little bit of jitters to some degree, right? And so for him to have the third period that he did, for him to make those couple interceptions, the point that you made about him moving his feet, there was the one play earlier in the game, I think it was in the second period, where he took the puck from the Leafs end into the neutral zone, and he just, like, stopped. Like, he just stopped full up and was like, what's, like, looking, and then he made a bad pass, and the puck went the other way, and they didn't score, thankfully, but when he keeps moving his feet, he's so fast, and he is such a good playmaker here. Like, is he not Matthew Knies? Is he Matthew Tkachuk? Maybe not. Is he Brady Tkachuk? No. Is he Mitch Marner? No, definitely not. But he has these glimpses and these moments where his pass selection is just unbelievable, and his timing and the speed that he has. And even though the second goal by Matthew Knies very nearly didn't go in, right? Like, Max Domi passes it to him in the slot. He sort of whiffs on it a little bit, but the stutter step of that led to Jonas Johansson going down early. And, of course, Matthew Knies banks it in the net. And, those two guys just look so jacked. So we have to imagine that Matthew Knies probably got the bill tonight. Is that right? What do you think?
I think you're right. Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's his first... I would say his first goal as in the regular season for the Leafs, but I mean the guy got 2, so he 100% deserves a belt. And you know what would be really cool is if he just got Domi to the side and was like, all right, here, you know what? We'll carry this together. This is for both of us tonight. That would be so sweet. Because truly, you could Knies doesn't get those 2 goals if Domi doesn't move and get in the right positions, right?
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was gonna say. Like, if it's not for Max Domi making those 2 passes as well as he does, then we lose 3-1, and I'm screaming instead of laughing and crying. But then we go to overtime, right? And there were chances both ways. Joseph Wall again showing how good he is, how calm he is, nice and composed, nice and tall in the net. When they go around the edge of the net, he's so much taller than Samsonov. Like, there's significantly less room between the shoulder and the bottom of the bar. And then our captain, Jonathan Tavares, scoring with 54 seconds left in overtime, saving us all from a Saturday night shootout. And that must have felt good for them, eh? Like, do you think that they like
JT
playing
as well?
Yeah, I know. Do you think that they're like a little bit higher after that win now because they're like, hey, we did it again, haha?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. It was a JT goal that got them through the first round as well, and 100%. I mean, come on, you guys have the Lightning's number at this point. JT getting that OT goal, and just the fact that they had a rough start and they were able to claw and itch and just nail their way back and just grab victory by the throat, right? It's you gotta feel good, especially like the last couple of games, right? They were on a skid of 2, right? And being able to win tonight, it was massive. And even Matthews on that OT, he had so many good chances. I think the Leafs, like, they probably outshot the Bolts, like, what, 6 or 5-1 or 5-2 or whatnot. It was crazy.
It seemed like every trio that went on the ice had at least one good chance when they.
And they were controlling it. That's the thing. Like, they weren't giving the Bolts an inch, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And finally JT getting it done. Or sorry, Nylander, actually. I think it was Nylander who
is that who they gave it to?
I think so.
Well, chat, can we do stick taps for the goal regardless of who won it?
Tavares. It was Tavares. Yeah, it ended up being Tavares. I think he got a little stick on it at the end. Regardless, though, chat, both of them,
drop
fantastic.
your sticks in the chat for the game-winning goal by John Tavares. What a goal, man. He just looks so stoked, and maybe not the most exciting goal that he's ever scored in that building, but must have felt pretty good after the last couple games, like you said. Now, we've reached the end of the game, so let's talk about the newest controversy, shall we?
Go for it.
Ilya Samsonov, Sammy, Mr. Smiles, listen, I love you, but you let in 3 goals on 4 shots, and at least one of those you should have had. I know
arguably 2.
I know, arguably 2. Let's just go with the 1 for now. It's early season, okay? The second Kucherov goal, he should have known was coming.
Yeah, 100%. It's in the
So
same slot, same location as the first one,
yeah,
just a little bit faster. Instead of 15 seconds, it was 4 seconds, right?
yeah.
Uh, I truly think Sammy, he wasn't expecting it, and I think he might have lost track of the puck because he was just really slow reacting and trying to cover up that side. I I, I don't know what to say.
He
Like
looks
that
hurt.
second.
I don't want to say that. He doesn't look good. He doesn't look good so far this season. I'm
I,
ready to say it. I'll step in front of the fire. I don't care. I'll take the bullet. He hasn't looked good so far this season. And every game that Joseph Woll's played, even though they haven't won all of them, he's looked steadier. He's looked calmer. His positioning is better. His rebound control is better. His anticipation of where moves are going to happen is better. He has an easier time seeing through the crowds and seeing over and seeing where the puck actually is. I think we have to consider the fact that they need to give Joseph Woll a couple starts in a row just to see what happens, man. Like, listen, this is the last game until Tuesday, who they're playing the Caps, and then we're playing Dallas. Now, neither of those teams is anything to scoff at, right? Like, both of those teams could make the playoffs. Maybe not. They're not slam dunks, but they make the playoffs. You have to consider starting Woll at least one or two of those.
Oh yeah,
Right?
100%. Especially after the game that he had today. Like, come on, he essentially, for all intents and purposes, he had to shut out himself, right, for today. Um, you gotta support your guys. You gotta give them their flowers when they're due, right? He played really well, and now you gotta kind of ride it out with him, right?
Yeah.
Just give him some support. I mean, and that's not to say that we're gonna completely bury like Sammy. I mean, Sammy is still
No.
a good goalie, and he's still gonna get his chances. But and I mean, like look back to the last season, we thought Murray was gonna be our number one guy, and ended up being Sammy by the end of it, right? They
Yeah.
kept flip flopping,
It wasn't even
but
by the end of it. It was by halfway through the year.
exactly. And but that's what I mean. Like it's still very early on, but right now Wall is the guy. He's hot. He's reading the plays really well, just exactly like you said. And you got to ride with him for a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's the right call. You got a lot of time in between those two games too. If you want to start him for both of them, you honestly very well could.
Yeah. And looks like there's lots of people in chat agreeing with us that they should give Wall a chance. Some people in chat are going so far as to saying we should give the Wall Jones tandem would be sick. I think it's a little bit early for that.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
still think that Samsonov could come back and have a really good hot streak, but I am a big believer in riding the hot goalie. Let's look at what's happening in Chicago. No one thought those goalies were going to be worth the spit on the sidewalk, and yet I believe Chicago is still undefeated in this season.
Are they?
I think so.
Oh man.
Like,
She
none of us saw that coming. Peter Mrazek playing like Dominik Hasek, I did not have on my bingo card for this season of hockey. But the way some of the goals that Samsonov has let in so far this season, like, fair dinkum, some of them weren't his fault, right? The one through traffic, and you don't see it, there's nothing you can do about that, really. Or tips, there's been a couple tip goals that you don't have a chance on, right? Like, if you think the puck's going here and it's going 90 miles an hour and then all of a sudden it's a foot and a half lower than we thought it was going to be, probably not going to be able to save that. But there was at least one goal tonight that should have been caught by him. And then if you do that, then maybe, the Leafs can get back in it a little bit sooner. But 3 goals on 4 shots is just not good enough.
It's not.
It's
And
just
the
not.
thing is, like that second goal, you could make it an argument. I mean, there was a defensive breakdown there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But those happen.
or exactly, Boulay should not have been completely alone in that situation. One thing though, I will give credit to the Lightning for. I mean, you got Johansson in there tonight, or in the last couple of games, right? And they are all supporting their guy. They're getting guys in the lanes. They're getting sticks in the lanes. They're doing their damn best to help support this guy who is not going to be their starting goaltender once Vasi gets back, right? The Leafs, like that second goal, they kind of let Sammy out to dry. There was a couple other games, right, where we've let our goaltender out to dry a little bit. So that's, although Sammy, yes, he had a bad game, and that's completely obvious. Everyone knows that. The Leafs have to do a better job in general of supporting their guys and just not leaving their guys out to dry. That's one thing that they truly need to work on, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's just really troubling to see Sammy play like that when he looked pretty decent in the preseason. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what to feel about this because it just feels very much tumultuous and more tumultuous than I would really like for it to be. Also, I was wrong. They are not undefeated.
I
My
think it's
bad.
like they've got 2 losses, I believe, right?
Yeah.
They're like
Something
3
like
and 2.
no, they're 2 and 3. So I was
2 and
even
3.
more
2 and
wrong.
3.
So
Okay.
my bad. You're right, chat. I was wrong. But even still, like they've had better goaltending than anyone thought that they were going to be. Even though they haven't won a bunch of games, they're still playing better than they have been because than expected. And part of the reason of that is they've had good goaltending. And isn't it surprising that good goaltending can get you so far? Like I was talking to Andrew the other day about the cost of, and this was even on like the first stream this season when we had Rachel Dory on, and we were talking about like the cost of it, and maybe that's just karmic or whatever. But Carey Price will steal a series, and the Leafs have not had a goalie that could even get close to stealing them a series. But Joseph Woll so far, maybe not this year and maybe not even next year, but he is looking like one of those goalies that in a couple of years with a little bit of time, a good opportunity and solid defense in front of him, he might be one of those nice steady Eddie goalies that the Leafs and Leaf fans have been waiting for so fucking long, man. Like,
Yeah.
we're just starving for somebody that's going to give us consistency because the last couple of years it's been so up and down. Like, when was the last goaltender that we had that was a mainstay character that didn't have these ridiculous games where they just looked awful? Like, even going back to like Freddie Anderson, like we know what like October Freddie looks like, right?
Exactly.
Like that was a joke. And like Jack Campbell, Peter Mrazek, Matt Murray, even Ilya Samsonov now, he's having these goals where they shouldn't just be let in, and he's having multiple games like this in a row. And it seems like we keep getting goalies, and maybe it's because we aren't willing to pay $7 million for players like Connor Hellebuck. I wish we would, but part of that is the fact that we haven't had anybody that's consistent. And when we see that they're in goal, we go, it's okay, at least this person's in goal tonight, right? And it feels like Joseph Woll, again, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe as the season goes on and in the next couple of years, he becomes that for us.
Yeah, I think so too. And the thing is, with the way that the Leafs are kind of strung with the cap, they don't have the luxury to go out there and spend a ton of money on a proven goaltender, right?
Yeah.
Someone who is the top of the class, the cream of the crop, in the NHL, right? That's not something that the Leafs have the luxury of doing, right? So you got to go with someone that that you've raised in your development team, and so someone that's homegrown, right? That's exactly what Woll is.
Yeah.
Will he be the best goaltender in the league? Probably not, but he doesn't have to be, in my opinion.
No.
As long as he's a top 5 goaltender, I mean, the rest of our team should be able to carry it out, right? Like what you're looking for in a goaltender, in my opinion, is someone who obviously is going to make the saves that they need to, and then make a couple saves that you don't expect them to.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I saw out of Woll today. That's what we've seen out of Woll in the last season as well. And there's no reason to believe that that's not going to be what we see in the future, right? If anything, he's going to get better. Like just add more time under him, give him some more comfort. Maybe the team helps him out a little bit more, and like we have a really good tandem at this point. I think Sammy, there's a little bit of jitters right now, but I don't think that he is this is indicative of what his talent is. I mean, he's a way better goaltender than he showed today, than he showed so far in the season. And I think we truly have a pretty good tandem this year. Way better than last year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that there's a good chance he bounces back, right? Like
exactly.
5 goals is not a goalie make. And he hasn't even started every game. Has he had to be, a rocky beginning to the season? Sure. But, like, the Leafs were no spring chicken last year at the beginning of the season either. Like, they did not play well at the beginning of the season.
Remember that bad road trip?
I try not to.
I covered that. I think there was, like, a really, really late game where
there was
I think it was me and Armand that were done at, like, 2 a.m. Yeah.
And they lost by, like, a really bad margin. And I'm not looking forward to that road trip again. It's obviously something where we all want a goalie we would love a top 5 goalie. Like, I don't think that there is anything that I wouldn't give up within reason to have UC Saros on our team. Like, that would be great. And you can't have everybody, but it would be nice to have a goalie, and if that's Will, then even better. And we will never, ever, ever, ever let him leave if he ends up being that for us. Guys, make sure we're going to be doing the press conference in just a minute. So please get your questions in on the chat because Harnish and I are going to be answering your questions. Please make sure you hit, is it here? Like over here. Like and subscribe right over here. And, you know, we're going to be back in a couple days. I won't be back till next week, but we are going to be doing your questions here. So make sure you drop your questions into the chat. It can be about hockey. It can be about chocolate. It can be about whatever you want it to be about. We will answer it. So yeah, obviously I'm stoked that the Leafs won the game tonight. I really didn't think to begin the game, I was like, they're going to lose this game just by how they were playing. But the more the game went on, the better they played. And I just hope that they ride how well they played into the next game, because that would be nice. It seems like we haven't had a lot of like continuum through any of the games so far. You know what I mean? There hasn't been any like ball that we're rolling on that like we're staying on top of so far.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, I mean, yeah, there's nothing to say that the Leafs won't, right? I am a very I guess like a positive Leafs fan where I'm like, all right, we win this game, we're winning the next 5. We're doing really, really well. But yeah, like one other guy that was added onto the team for this game was Pontus Holmberg, right?
Yeah.
I think he really, really did a lot. Like he did a lot. I think he played really, really well. It's like that Minton just couldn't get it going in the limited time that we saw him, but he's a young guy. But yeah, having Pontus back, really, really good. And the flexibility that Keep has shown, I mean, I'm expecting the Leafs to finally like come out of this little slip that they had in the last couple of games and put on a good showing.
Yeah, we can only hope for that, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, Holmberg, he didn't get a chance to play a lot tonight just because there was so much time on the PK, and there was so much time that they were from behind that he didn't get as many opportunities as I think maybe he would have wanted, maybe Keefe would have wanted him to play, but the times that he was on the ice, he was noticeable. He's a big dude, again, kind of like Matthew Knies. He's built very similarly. They don't look alike, but they're built in a very similar fashion. They're both really strong on the puck, really good on the forecheck against the other team, which is really nice to see, obviously. And I hope that he gets another chance in the next coming weeks. I hope Nicky Bobby gets another chance coming up in the next couple of weeks too. But he is doing really well in the AHL, so I wouldn't mind letting him simmer down there a little bit. What are your questions from the chat? What are your names? I'm Lauren Williamson.
And I'm Harnish Patel.
There you go. There's one done. So Steve Dangle is not live streaming Hockey Night in Canada games anymore. No, because he is ours now. You cannot have him Sportsnet.
SDPN.
He is only with SDPN. He has his own channel, of course. Please make sure you guys go watch the LFR. We love Steve. I saw him a couple weeks ago, and he is just a fucking delight, that guy. If you were Brad Treliving, who are you looking at for the solution on the blue line? Shake up who we have or trade for one better? Oh, Ken, that's a great question.
Yeah. That's a tough one. Do you want me to start with that?
I have an answer, but go ahead.
Okay. It's tough. It's tough because what's the one thing that we've criticized, or that's been a glaring issue for the Leafs? Their offense, right? Their offense generation.
The blue line.
Exactly. And we thought that Klingberg would be a temporary bandit. I don't think he's a solution. Not at all, because he is what you get, right? He's really bad defensively, but when he's out there on the power play or when he's out there in an offensive minded situation, he's fantastic, right?
Yes.
He's getting a lot of chances. Riley had a chance last game as well. But that's something that you got to kind of work with. McCabe, I kind of want to see a little bit more out of him. I think he had a pretty good game today, but
he jumped up in the play a few times tonight. But to the point where I'm like, you're not that good though, so please stop.
Especially when he's paired with Liljegren, right?
Yes. Oh golly, that was tough to watch. So they put up a stat on the game tonight. The Leafs still have no goals from their defense. They are tied for last place. Last place. Oh my God. I think changes need to be made. I think at some point changes will probably be made. I think that if you've watched any of my streams so far this year, you already know that I think that the wrong signing was made. I think that they should have gotten a player like Matt Dumba, who was the same price and playing in Arizona instead. I think at some point there has to be a trade made on the blue line just by proxy. I think.
Who do you think's the casualty?
Oh God, we don't have that long. I don't know. I don't think it's Klingberg just because they just signed him. Could it be? Sure. I don't think it's Jake McCabe. It's obviously not Morgan Riley. I don't think they're trading TJ Brody, even though lots of people are suggesting it. He is so steady and he's so good and he has such a low goals expected against average when he's on the ice. He's like, what are we going to do with the Brody slide? Come on, get your head straight. Get your head straight again. Like, we're not trading TJ Brody. It's either going to be Timothy Liljegren and a rookie for someone better, or it's Klingberg and a rookie for someone even better.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail. I think you got it right there.
Like, Liljegren has these moments where he's really good, and then other times you're like, you cannot be making decisions like that. And he's gotten lucky. He hasn't been burned really bad so far. But last season, there was more than a couple of plays where I was like, oh my heavens, what are you doing? Like, some of his decision making is great. And I think we all wish that the Sandy and Liljegren pairing from the Marlies translated to the NHL the way that we all hoped and prayed that it would. But it's clear that that isn't the way. And so I think if any casualties are going to happen, I think maybe it starts with the player whose last name is Liljegren.
I agree. I and for exactly the same reasons as you stated. It's unfortunate. I loved when we signed Liljegren because he dropped in the draft. He was, what was he touted for? Like a top 6, top 7 pick or whatnot,
Something
right?
Like
He's a guy that we've developed, but he's getting up there in age.
Down too.
Yeah, he's what, 24 going 25 this year. He just makes those bad hockey IQ plays. Today he had a pretty good takeaway on a rush by the Lightning, but it's stuff like that where I think he is the one that you kind of you're gonna kind of have to get rid of. Yeah. It's unfortunate because I would want to see him there. There's so much positives with this game. It's just,
and we just want it to happen so bad. Like, I feel like we're all trying to will it into existence that he's going to like take this next step that we've all been waiting for.
Exactly.
But it just hasn't fucking happened, and it doesn't look like it's going to. Like, I think we were all kind of hoping maybe he takes some time over the summer and is maybe able to more secure his spot in the top 6. But like, I'm not super attached to him, and I'm sorry to say that because I love Timothy Liljegren as a player. I think he does have some exceptional moments, but I really feel like the more he plays for us, the less value that he has because his shortcomings they're just so magnified under the Leafs. And I feel like if you're on another team, maybe there's not as many of those plays, right? Like, think about like Jake Gardiner on the Leafs, right? Like, we depended on him too much, and then he had his really good moments, but then he would have these defensive lapses where it was like game ending or season ending or series ending, and Liljegren has had those. And on another team that's maybe better defensively, those kinds of things don't happen as often. And
parents make lines, right? So like when Lily started off and he was paired with Gio, I mean, they worked really well together because Gio was that mainstay guy that can just lock down the D while Lily has fun out there with the forwards, right?
Yeah.
But as Gio ages and whatnot, he just can't keep up anymore. The pairing just doesn't work. They just get completely caved in, right? So yeah, maybe it just, like you said, maybe it's just a change of scenario that he needs, a change in partner, and maybe he can flourish, right? But on this lineup right now, as the Leafs are constructed, I don't see it.
Dave Gerard in the chat, trade Liljegren and Klingberg for one great defensive D and then use Timmins with Gio. I would subscribe to that.
Trade both of them.
Trade both of them. Why not? Think about how much cap space that is. That's like 5.3? What's Liljegren making these days? 1.4?
But what are you going to get for What are you going to get for them?
You
That's
can get
the bigger
a lot.
problem,
Okay.
right?
Okay. In hindsight, Klingberg had no business asking for $8 million. I can't imagine. Imagine if like Vancouver had signed him to $8 million. Oh my God. They didn't,
Nightmare.
and we didn't. And I think that you can get a pretty solid D for $5 million. I'm going to look it up. And then when we stream together next, we can talk about it.
Okay.
We should probably wrap the stream up there. What do you think? You got anything
Yep.
else? You got anything else for tonight? Does anybody else have any more
Nope.
questions in the chat? Get them in. We're just going to wrap up the chat here. Obviously, great game at the end. Tough game to start. The first 30 minutes were kind of brutal to watch, but got better as the last 30 minutes went on. And following that 30 minutes, you decided to be here in our living room / bedrooms with us. So thank you for coming over. Thank you for hanging out. Don't forget to drink water. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe. Make sure you share the stream. If you like the stream, please come back. We are live after every single Leafs game, and we're gonna be excited and talking about all of the non-existent controversies that we make up in our brains for the rest of the season. So go Leafs, go Wall, go Brick Wall. Let's fucking go. Big save. Matthew Knies has arrived. Have a good night, everybody. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Lauren in the 6th. Harnish, you're on this side.
My name is Harnish Patel. You can find me on Twitter at Harnish_Patel98.
Let's go. Dumber for the Norse on the Leafs. Let's go. Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah!